I'm Allie Craig, and I'm traveling across the country to fix the heartbeat of the modern economy, the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are like no other business. It isn't just about selling a product or a service, it's about selling the experience, the relationship, and speaking to the social stories that hold the hearts and subconscious minds of our audiences. And it's these fledgling brands that must be designed as much for their audiences as it is for their authors if they're going to break the statistics and make bank. Having fixed countless brands over the last 20 years and worked with hundreds more entrepreneurs, founders, and startups, I know that I need to do something radical to get these brands and their founders back on track. Because in this age of social media where everyone is a critic as well as an instant expert, your business and audience can boom or backfire overnight. If I have any hope of saving these brands and transforming their businesses, I have to get these entrepreneurs to embrace the experience they are really selling and escape the mindset that all they are is just an offer. Hey everybody, this is Allie Craig and this is Fix My Brand with Allie Craig, and if you can believe it or not, this is the final episode of season 2. And for this episode, the tables are turning on me because instead of talking about the brands, talking about where they're at now and really showing you the behind the scenes goodies on that, Miss Gina Bell is here from season 2. And she's gonna be asking me all of your hard-hitting questions you've been submitting over the last few months, as well as some of the behind the scenes scoops that we haven't actually had the time to really deep dive into. That's what we're doing all today. So thank you, Gina.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You should see this face, guys. This is like, ooh.
Questions.
Things are happening. So let's get started. You got your notes.
I have my notes. Okay, so in season 2, we were introduced to Neri, which was one of the first live calls that you did with all of us. And I think that it opened our eyes so much to how the world works, especially from a business standpoint, that I want to hear all about Neri from you in person right now.
Okay, so if you haven't heard about Neri, Neri is neuro-emotional relationship intelligence, and it's something that I've developed for the last 20 years. And the reason why it came about is because we all need ways to really not just know who we are and how we show up and how people perceive us, but how we can best connect with our audiences. Because if we're not able to connect with our audiences instantly, if that's online or if that's in person, if we lead with the wrong foot, we lose that opportunity just like that. It's that negative first impression. And so Neri really works on really creating smart, emotionally driven relationships and really understanding that it's all based off of getting to know us and then getting to really understand the true motives of who our audience is. Because what people tell you, if you have not yet realized this, they don't tell you what they really want. They don't tell you their true drivers. Sometimes they aren't consciously aware of it, but a lot of times it's simply for the fact that it's not socially acceptable or, oh, well, will someone think of me? And so if you can meet them really where they're truly at, not where they say they're at, you're gonna be able to make that instant connection.
Oh yeah, and I think that happened so much in season 2. Like, not only, I think all of us thought we were learning about ourselves, which we were, but we were really learning how to go out into the world and see other people, like potential clients or even friends and family, so that we're able to balance that whole work-life thing too.
Well, and that's what I love about Neri, is that it's a twofold side. It is a personal understanding you and understanding how you come across and understanding if that's how you want to be seen and want to lead with, because we all have different sides to our personality, and it's understanding if that's the right perception you want. Like, I know for myself, if you look at Neri, there's 4 profiles. So there's the New Yorker, there's the Seattle, there's the Boston, there's the Charleston. I know I have massive New Yorker in me. It's that very much go, get it done, direct to the point, and only really wants relationships for the purpose of the goal and the driven, not just because. And so I know what that means. That means I can come across super intimidating. That means I can totally be the bitch. You know, like, that's how the perception is. You also know a New Yorker because you're going to totally hear my shoes enter the room before I ever do. I'm going to be mostly in all black or something super dramatic. So I know now, if I meet someone like Miss Gina Bell, who definitely has been leading with her Charleston side, that I need to bring more of my Charleston nature, my softer side out. I'm not going to change my aesthetic because that doesn't work for me, but it's my conscious choice to now know that the way I relate to you needs to be a little slower, a little more intentional, and a little less to the bottom line driven focused.
Right, and because you understand me in that way and you do lead with that foot, it helps me to lead with the right feet as I go out into the world, because I'm finding more balance with that whole New Yorker Charleston thing where I was almost all Charleston, I
You're
think. when we
almost
met.
all Charleston girlfriend.
Yes.
Which is great and lovely for the relationship side of your business, but will totally kick your butt when it comes to the money side of your business, when it comes to really asking and getting for what you want, because you're so compassionate to other people that sometimes that can be misconstrued or taken advantage of. And would you be so brave as to tell the audience about the recent experience you had? I know I'm trying to say it with my heart. Just like, this was not what I signed up for. You were recently at this amazing conference, and there was a little snafu when it comes to this exclusive dinner party you were invited to. And you were invited, and then all of a sudden you were disinvited. So would you please tell them what you did in the best way, and then what was the outcome for you actually being so bold and brave?
Sure. So I was invited, and then there was something happened with the technology, and I wasn't sure if I was on the guest list after all. And so even leading with my New Yorker, we talk about this, and you're like, oh, shoulders. So like I'm leading.
Yep, shoulders back, collarbones up.
Right, collarbones up. And it doesn't mean for me, being witchy or cocky or whatever. It just means knowing what I want and going in with that confidence that I already have, but sometimes, I'll shrink into this, sort of Charleston mode, I guess. And so I walked in and I didn't even really do anything per se. It was more the way I held myself. And because of the way I held myself, I feel like I was paid more attention to. And it was good because I had things to say, and I ended up going to a fabulous dinner that night.
And you ended up meeting amazing people and getting some really killer swag that, you wouldn't have gotten any other way.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
So that is Neary. Neary, and what I like about Neary and what I saw with season 2 with the group is that everyone started to talk in there. Oh, that's Charleston, that's New York, that's Boston, that's Seattle.
Yes.
And you start to decipher really who you are. And I have to be honest, I'm really biased on the sense that Seattle is not my most favorite personality because I don't have any in it for me to, so it's very challenging for me to relate to. So no one wanted to be a Seattle, even though we had some. And so people started to kind of communicate in that way and connect in that way and become conscious about the relationships they were creating.
And people connected way more than I think you know. Like,
tell us the scoop, girl.
Well, no.
Like, what's the skinny?
I just mean, like, my husband was curious about what everything was, and then, so not only were the brands talking about what other people might be or what mixture they might be, it was trickling into, like, our families, I think, and trying to figure out who was what. So even my husband will say, like, even my therapist will say, like, lead with your New Yorker foot, because I use that terminology when I talk about how I do want a balance between, that softer side and business me, like it's important. So the other brands, I think, were doing a little bit of that too, where they were noticing, or we would travel with you and we would say, oh, here we went to get groceries or something. Oh, the bagger at the grocery store was probably A because they did, so it's interesting to see little glimpses of what we think people are based on our experiences with you.
Well, and the whole point of Neary is that it's all about creating smart relationships with yourself, so you know where your weaknesses may lie, where you can potentially sabotage yourself, and then using the other aspects of your personality to not allow that sabotage to happen. Because like in your example, and with Sylvia as well, is you both have Charleston in you, and so the sabotage to that is you want to give everything away because it's your nature to care, and you would hate for someone to feel bad. You would hate for someone to not be able to afford what you're doing, and so, I'll just give it away, which can be okay if you're consciously choosing it, is not okay when you're feeling like you're always giving it away. And so this is always about creating those conscious relationships of how am I going to show up and where am I going to show up, and does that in the end goal create the relationships I'm looking to create.
Right.
That's Neary. Everything's relationships, people. If you haven't figured it out by now in season 2, everything's relationships.
And it's super cool to see how people have evolved and stepped into who they are with the different types of profiles. So
And trying to figure it out, because like we see Talmar now definitely really stepping into her New Yorker, and I almost think probably a little too much, sorry Talmar, that where she's going to stay. But again, it's also seasons of your life and in that certain time frame, and what's your end goals, is understanding those end goals. If you're rooted in your soul fire and you're rooted in what is your true heart and your true intention, then everything else becomes clear on the whole purpose behind what you're doing.
it all makes sense.
There's madness to this method.
Okay, so I've watched more of season 2 than I will tell anybody. But I do enjoy rewatching the episodes, and there's so much of the different brands that are sort of having these little mini meltdowns, and I know I was big on that for me. Like, you'll just hear me making noises or having light bulb moments or whatever. But there were a lot of meltdowns, probably way more than the show actually.
Yeah, we were nice. Our editor's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, editors. But I would love to hear a little bit on the scoop as far as how that was for you, because it's been so much about us brands, and I really want to know your side of things, or your backstory, or I want the juicy stuff.
So meltdowns are not uncommon. They always happen. If you're not having a meltdown, you're not doing it right. And I think one thing I told everybody before we even actually started production of the show is that branding is a deeply personal experience, and if you're not getting personal and you're not getting emotional and you're not being challenged, you're not doing this right. Like, you're not playing all in, basically. So I knew meltdowns were gonna happen. What I thought was ironic is they all happened on week 4. Every single brand, Megan led us off with her meltdown, and then every single brand during week 4 had an utter meltdown. And part of it's where we are in the process at that point, because by that time we've gone through Soulfire, we've gone through Neary, we've gone through the neurohuman branding, and we're really talking about intelligent influence at that point. And things are beginning to stop being theoretical, and now we're starting to make decisions. And so now we have to kind of put skin in the game. We have to really make the commitment. So it's not shocking that week 4 is when the meltdowns happen. But what is shocking is, and this is where the structure of the show can be such a negative, because we are shooting in this set time frame. Like, we shot from mid-January to end of March. That was our shoot time for everything to get all the brands developed in time. And so that doesn't allow for this organic evolution to happen. Whereas when you work with me one-on-one, hey, if you need to put a pin in it and come back to this in 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is, then we can totally do that. But the show doesn't allow for that. So for Megan, I love Dr. Megan Todd, fabulous, amazing woman, and what she has to do in this world is awesome. But she started week 4 with the meltdown, because we had this very cool idea of the spectrum and how she works with creative people on the spectrum. And because she has so many degrees and certifications, she can help you from anything of, if you are in creative overwhelm and you can't find structure, she can help you with the structure, to if you are in creative burnout because you have so much structure, how to really get in alignment and re-tap into your creative spirit. And so that's on a spectrum. And we were so cool, we were so good. I can remember we were out shopping. I was flying out on a red eye, and so I was in Phoenix. And I was like, hey, we'll go shopping, and I'll fly out on my red eye, and we'll move on. And we're having dinner, and she was crying. She was so great. And I should have known it was gonna happen. I should have recorded it, because 2 days later, she's like, I'm not really sure spectrum's the right word, and it feels very patriarchal. And I'm like, I don't know how the hell spectrum's patriarchal, but okie dokie. And it took her all the way to September, October, where then she finally messaged me, and she was like, I now see what you were talking about with regards to spectrum. I now see that that's really what it's about, and I'm ready to move forward. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that you saw the light. But in the show process, it doesn't, we still have to move forward. We can't just be like, well, Megan's photo shoot's on hold. It's like, nope, photo shoots were happening, video shoots were happening. It had to happen on this schedule for us to even make our timing.
Yes, and that brings me to another question about launching. So I'm not sure how everyone else's brand, how everything went with anyone else, but I do know for mine, it was one of the scariest things I've probably ever done, just because I was bringing my new brand out into the world, and a lot came up with that. So I'm curious how your experience has been with the whole launch or failure to launch.
Well, so we launched 8 brands at one time. Yes, there's only 6 on the show. We'll get to that one in a second. We launched 8 brands in one time, so they were all built out at the same time frame. And there was some drama there on our production with who we had as experts, which we'll get to that in a second. And so that was a lot of work for my team and I to be producing. And I warned everybody, as always, and I swear you don't believe me until you're in it. I'm like, when you go to launch, the strangest shit's gonna happen. Your water heater's gonna break, your ex-boyfriends are gonna show up, money is gonna all of a sudden be a massive issue. Whatever your trigger is, wherever your emotional weakness is, that's gonna show up. And did it ever for absolutely everybody. So I even reminded everybody in Slack, because that's how we communicate. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, my ex-boyfriend did show up. Oh my gosh, this is happening, this is happening. And it's like, that always happens. And so for me, I've been doing it for 20 years, so I know it, and we can plan a lot of things. Like we can plan for tech failures, we can plan for, and that's one reason why I work with the platforms that I work in, is because I need to be able to change it. I'm not gonna rely on some team member or somebody else to do it. If push came to shove, I will be there. Because as I always say, like, I am there for my brands no matter what. You will not fail on this side of the equation, so.
And I think just you telling all of us, like, you were so sure it was normal. Like, you were so sure. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, you must have worked with so many brands that was like no sweat to you. You're like, yeah, you're gonna just jump. I know you can't see right now, but
just do it.
So that was really, really cool that we were able to sort of see that from your perspective.
Well, I think that's the difference between being a true expert and just being someone who maybe is intellectually smart or has Googled or thought the idea of being a brander is something cool and hip. Because you got to understand that when I started this, we didn't even call it branding. That's not what the term was in the industry. And so now it's a buzz term, just like the term influencer is a buzz term. And so there's a lot of people who say they do it, but they don't know it. They haven't lived it enough. They haven't seen it enough. They haven't evolved with it enough. I've been doing it for 20 years. And so trust me, I have seen an awful lot, and you just get to the point where you're not surprised at what happens of assistants flaking right at lunchtime, at, you know, tech going completely haywire and everything you thought was amazing and perfect a second ago, not working. Everything you prepped for, not working. Like, that just happens, you know, people getting sick. Like Sylvia was losing her voice during her launch in the fall. And so it's like, I was like, she's like, oh, I'm just so sick. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me in the least. You're supposed to go launch your course with your voice, and it's not surprising that your voice, I mean, that's where our bodies come into play, and our subconscious mind always wins. And that's one reason why NERI and neurohuman branding and intelligent influence works, because they're all going into the subconscious mind. And that's the deep, dark, dirty untruths that we don't want to know about, but that's what will make your reality. So.
Wow. Okay. Drama. Can I just say drama and sit back and listen?
Well, and especially for the brands, like, you know, I always keep my relationship, though I am friendly, and I'll always be friendly on most levels. I won't say always, on most levels. There was drama on the production side of life. And I always try to keep that away from my clients if we're talking personally or on the show, because the truth is none of your business on many levels, and you already have so much on your plate, you don't need to know about what's happening in the back end, because it's my job as the professional and the expert to protect you from that, be mama bear on this one, and guard you from it and fix the mistakes. So yes, we had total drama on season 2, which we could have never have planned for. So yes, we lost 2 brands during the process, which was drama on our side, because for production wise, you know, number one, 2 people are leaving who everyone got to know, and then so how do we explain that to you guys, the brands? How did we deal with it on the production side? Because we were planning for X number of episodes, we still need to deliver that for you, and all of that. And then we also had loss of experts on the show as well, who, though contractually it wasn't in your written agreement of what I was going to deliver to you, everyone, because of when it happened, everyone was so looking forward to, you know, the video work and all that kind of stuff, that even though contractually I wasn't obligated to deliver it, I could not let you guys fail. And so even though the expert didn't follow through and didn't deliver and whatnot, and that parting of ways had to happen, you know, God bless my team. God bless my mighty little team. Aww. We are small and we are mighty, but we are, they will do anything, and I adore them for it, and I hope they all know that. And so we got on Southwest, we got on Delta, we started flying around the country to make these videos, make the photography work that we needed to get, make the pieces that the experts were supposed to be delivering and were not going to be available. And the one snafu that I wish it didn't happen was that we were technically about 7 days late on delivering the actual full brands, but you know,
life happens,
it's life.
Right?
And that's what happens, and that's where communication happens, and that's why, you know, it was a choice of when we had to bring it up to everybody of like, okay, this is what happened, but here's how we're fixing it.
And boy, did you guys fix it. It's been amazing.
So I hope at no point there was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in the middle of the ocean and I'm going to drown. Whereas like, no, I'm still in the middle of the ocean, but I'm in a safe boat and she's still rowing me and the team's got me, and we're gonna, you know, no matter what, in the end, we're gonna make it to the desert island that we're, you know, beautiful oasis we're trying to go for.
I love that.
So.
All right, we have viewer questions.
Viewer questions.
All right, so Miss Allie Craig, what was the most challenging moment about this season?
Doing 8 brands at once. The great thing and the negative thing about this season was, so from season 1, everyone just brought what they could on either financial level or on a like logistical time level. Season 2, and what I didn't like about season 1 was because then everyone's brand was so different. Like some people made amazing strides visually because they had the money to invest in photography and video, and some didn't. And that makes me go, wah, wah, and that's not fun, you know? Sure. So for season 2, it was different, where basically all the brands got over $100,000 worth of services, and they paid a very nominal cost, like less than a quarter of that is what they paid. And so, you know, there were strict deliverables, and I am like letter of the law Boston on this one if you want to look at the NIRI profiles, where it's like, it's written, it shall be done, basically. And so I wanted to make sure that everything happened in a distinctive way for all the brands, but yet in its most cohesive way for production purposes. And so 8 brands at once is a lot, because even with my branding businesses, I've branded up to 20 businesses in a year, but everyone's at different stages. And everyone's at week 1. Okay, we're going to start talking about, you know, Soulfire, and what are you really looking for, and what are you really wanting? And some people are willing to play in at that point, and some people are like, I still don't trust you yet, so I got to wait and see, which then delays the work a little bit. And then, you know, week 2, we're talking about NIRI. Week 3, we're talking about neurohuman branding. Week 4, we're talking about intelligent influence. And so everyone's at the exact same stage. So everyone's meltdowns happen at the exact same stage. Everyone's work has to happen at the exact same stage. And especially with the photo shoot in Orlando, I mean, blessing, curse there. Fabulous that we were all in this most amazing house together. Great that everyone got to meet in person for the first time. But I knew after doing 20 years of photo shoot production, none of them listen to Sandy or myself when it comes to their fashion and their style. And so I knew you guys were not going to come with the right clothing or accessories. Like I knew, it's like instincts were going off, and I was like, I can't let my brands fail. It's my number 1 dedication. I will never let my brands fail. And so I had been shopping all the way up into Orlando, yes. 8 suitcases full of stuff. Besides their gifts, besides, you know, something that I wanted to be really special for you, which was all about really, the gifts were all about creating a distinctive moment. So that way when you saw that item or used that item, you would always be brought back to this moment. You know, and the house was really great because it allowed your subconscious mind to work and to step into your new brand, to play, to do adult version of dress up basically, and speak and own and be this new brand and see how that felt in a really safe environment. And then if you did it once, you can do it again. But the clothing piece, I I actually had to fly home to Louisiana because my dad was having surgery prior to Orlando. And so I'm like bringing all these bags, my luggage breaks. I'm with my mom at this very small little mall in Lafayette, Louisiana. And I see these shoes and I'm like, oh my God, those are shoes for Gina. And they're on sale. And so I'm like trying to text you, like, what's your shoe size again? I forgot. And so all these pieces. And then I was actually got to Orlando finally. And Cassandra's, I do a call with Cassandra on Friday. She's supposed to come in on Monday. She's out, she's just still with her corporate job at that time. And so she was actually traveling the world somewhere, and she's like, my clothes aren't going to arrive in Colorado in time. I need you to buy for me. And I'm like, okay. And so like I am finding the outlet malls, I'm finding all these places to try to find pieces. Some work, some don't. You just go with it because, you know, I'm not a big fan of like use it and return it. I think that's really just like bad juju on that one. And so, you know, I wanted this really neat sofa experience where everyone had like their little pile of clothes or accessories or whatnot. It ended up looking like the clothes threw up on the sofa in my book. It was a little more disorganized than I wanted to. But in the end, honestly, almost everything we brought or I bought for you guys, you wore on your photo shoots. Between the accessories and the clothing and the shoes and all that. And the really cool thing about that also was, you know, the dress up component.
Oh yeah.
It's instinctual, at least in girls. Don't know about guys, but it's so instinctual. Girls, like I was ripping off my shirt, giving it to Ginny P. I was like, Travis, just stay downstairs. You know, boy crew, stay downstairs because we have naked women upstairs. Mm-hmm. But it was great because then like Lisa gave something to Sylvia gave something to Talmar, I think, and it just ended up being this really great community aspect. And I think that's something that's missing so much in today's society, especially for women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's a great memory for me too. Yes, the dress
Because
up.
you were sitting on the stairs, weren't you?
I was, like this.
So Gina was sitting on the stairs. It was a 3-story house, and we were on the second floor. We had all the clothes, we had all the accessories, and Stacy, Lenoir, myself, and Ginny P. And Ginny P was going to do a photo shoot the next day because the expert, part of being an expert on the show is that you got a professional photo shoot as part of your compensation. And so we were dressing up Ginny P in her very British / French style aesthetic, and I'm ripping off my shirt and giving it to her, and you guys just look over, and I was like, oh, look, we have an audience. And that, I think, set the tone totally unintentionally, but that's where, for photo shoot and video shoot production, we plan, and then we have to let magic happen.
And it did.
So.
All right. This is our last viewer question. What is the #1 misconception people have about branding?
Your fear expression is great, though. I think the #1 misconception people have about branding is a couple. One is they think it's pieces. They think it's their website. I hear people say, oh, don't you do a website, or can't you just pick my colors? And it's like, no, that's like choosing an outfit and not knowing where you're going. Like you can't, no one good is going to take your money for just choosing brand colors or just choosing your website or something like that, or just doing a random photo shoot, because you're going to end up with pieces that make no sense to the puzzle you're actually creating and building. So you have to understand that first. You also have to understand that your brand is not the magic pill of everything. And this is where a lot of guys have a frustration on it, because your brand is a relationship. And so a lot of guys are obsessed with ROI and, you know, love my male clients, but it's like, dude, tell me the ROI of your girlfriend. Like you can't. Like it depends on how much you're willing to invest in the relationship. How does that relationship go? Does something happen? I mean, it's like any other relationship. It takes time and shit happens. And are you willing to play in with that? Are you walking away from that? And that's really what it's about. It's not this, you know, this magic pill. You've got to remember that branding is the beginning step to your marketing, which is the second step before you get to sales. So it's branding, marketing, sales. You have all three. Just because you have brand doesn't mean you have a marketing strategy, doesn't mean you have sales. Just because you have marketing doesn't mean you have a brand, doesn't mean you're going to get sales. So you got to understand there's a process there.
Wow, thank you. All right, that's what I have for you.
Well, everybody, it has been a crazy, exciting, and wild ride for season 2. Wait till you see what we're going to bring you for season 3 in just a few short months. So make sure to go check out Brandpreneur Network. Brandpreneur.tv is the URL. Follow us there. We'll give you the behind-the-scenes skinny on everything Fix My Brand, Allie Craig. Plus, we have some amazing killer episodes coming for you. We have 2 new shows taking the release spot of this show. So you can go over to Brandpreneur.tv and you'll find out. One is Empire. We have been shooting Empire TV, and Empire TV is all about telling the true stories of female entrepreneurs, the struggle and the success along the way of building their empires their way. Because I'm going to tell you, what you see out there in the mass media of world is not what women are really building. We're going to show you what they're really building and how successful they really are their way. And then we also have Spark Stories, which is all about sharing that spark, that moment where you realize this is what I'm meant to do with my life, and seeing how these amazing people from around the United States are actually changing the world their way. If it's through a nonprofit, if it's through their passion projects, or whatever it is, it will inspire you. It's what always gets me super excited about working with brands, is to know their spark story. Wait till you see these spark stories. Those all start next week on the Brandpreneur Network.